Good morning, YouTube. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to the vlog. I'm Daryl, and this is my 2013 Ram 2500 Overland build. Before we get started with the exterior, I do want to clear the air on something. I've had several people come up to me and tell me, hey, that's a nice AEV, or I'm really digging your Prospector. I bought this vehicle as a completely stock Laramie Ram 2500. This is not a consigned nor AEV conversion truck. So all upgrades parts were all purchased by me. When doing my research on a front bumper, I noticed that all the ones on the market, and there is a vast variety for the Rams, but all of them on the market are more aesthetically made. It's for look. Sure, they hold a winch and maybe they hold some LED cubes or fog lights. The reality is they can't take a bump. They're made of thin metal. Again, it's an aesthetical piece. I narrowed my search down to two different bumpers, the AEV and the ARB, both of which are made of a modular design. So in the event of damage to one of the corners or the center, I don't have to replace the whole bumper. I can actually just replace the part that's damaged. Now when it come down to which one I was going to buy, I wanted something more clean line to the truck, something that kind of flowed with the truck and in essence disappeared. The ARB is a little bit large for my taste. It kind of just stands out like a big brush guard. And although it had a lot of body protection, I was also trying to be weight conscious as well. Not that the 9,000 pound truck can get any lighter. But I did end up going with the AEV, and I have to admit, I'm glad I did. It's definitely taken some abuse so far, and I plan on giving it a lot more. When it came to my winch options, I will admit that I budget bought the current winch that I have in here. Again, this is a heavy setup, and you need a lot of winch to recover it in a sticky situation. I ended up going with the Xenon 12,000 pound. Again, it was budget friendly. I do feel it's a great winch, and I do feel it is somewhat adequate for this truck, but I much rather prefer something in the 16,000 pound range. And sometime in the future, when ends meet, that will probably get swapped out. For the time being, I do like the Warren 12,000 pound. I'm running steel cable. It's waterproof, and the good thing is it's almost plug and play. You bolt it in, you hook it to the battery, and there are no other wires you have to run. There's no remote on or off. You actually plug the handheld into it, and it makes the connection for you. So it was a great simple install, and thus far it's doing the job. For up-front off-road lighting, I did switch out the factory fog lights for a set of Morimoto LEDs. They are actually pretty amazing fog lights. They put out more than enough light. And again, you know, I could have ran an LED or something in the factory fog light. It would have probably been plenty sufficient. But I'm not big into light bars and all that gaudiness that they make. I know they put off quite a bit of amount of light, but it's just not it's not me. It just adds too much to the vehicle. These are great. I also am running a set of rigid dualies, which are mounted to hood hinge brackets. These are the floods. I prefer the floods. I don't really need a spot. I haven't really gotten to a situation that, you know, I was compromised by not having enough light. Running the fogs and running these floods, they've always done the job. Now, again, I'm not big on the light bars and stuff like that. I'm not opposed at some point in time to maybe putting some different off-road lights on it, and my mind could be swayed. We'll cross those bridges when we get there. Determining the right wheel and tire combination was a bit of a challenge for me. I did determine I needed something that would disperse water, mud, etc. And further my research, I found out that the best wheel and offset setup for a Ram 2500, especially if you're overlanding it, is the factory offsets. Now, these are a set of AEV Saltas. They are running factory offset, size, width, etc. I am running a 35 1250. They've been great wheels. I have no contact issues. I mean, a lot of that plays in your suspension when you're going to run a bigger tire. You have to align your axle. Too many guys are out here throwing a spacer on here and running around saying it's lifted, but they throw a big set of tires on there and they're rubbing everything and cutting. I didn't want to have to cut my truck. It's going to get scratches and battle wounds taking it off-road, but if I didn't have to cut it, I wasn't going to cut it to make something work, unless it was improving it somehow, and I don't think cutting my truck to fit wheels and tires is that feasible. So the AEVs have been great. I love them. I love the way they work, the way they look. I believe they call this finish an ion black. It's really not a black. It's more of a gunmetal, and I kind of like the fact that it's gunmetal. I think black wheels are to the point that really played out, in my opinion, and you know, getting a different color on there for some different contrast does change it. I've been a BFG guy for most of my life. I've ran them on multiple trucks. When BFG come out with the KO2 tire, it really was not heavy duty friendly. It was more towards medium or light duty trucks. And although they look good, I actually have a set on my Denali. They were not going to work for my configuration. I'm just too much weight, and I do want to get some life. I did a lot of review with the Generals, and although I haven't found anybody that's really put a lot of miles on it, my vehicle is more specifically built. It's not my daily. It's my getaway vehicle. It's my adventure rig, my off-road camper, my overlanding truck, whatever you want to call it. But the reviews I did read on the General, and actually the General Grabber AT3 to be specific, is it's a very, very good tire. It has great road manners. The noise inside the cab is minimal. Anything you would expect from all-terrain, and this is a mud terrain. And so far, the wear has been great at all. So I can only say good things about the General Grabber, and I guess I'm sold at this point. We're just going to see how they hold up with some more trail and rougher terrain. But at this point, you know, I am definitely a backer on General Tire. Oh, and let me correct that. I called it an AT3. It is an X3 tire. This is the General Grappler X3's mud terrains. When it came to suspensions, I knew I was going to have to actually configure and build my own. I don't believe there's any one suspension that would be, hey, this is a great Overland suspension, although it may say it is an Overland suspension. To configure your vehicle right, it's trial and error. I did know I wanted to go with a good brand, and there's just not that many on the market for the Ram to accomplish my needs. There are a lot of these large lifts, but in off-road travel, it's not always how big your lift is. But obviously you need some ground clearance and comfortability and travel, you know, suspension travel. So I went with all Carli, front and rear. Thurn was an option, but I kind of like what Carli was doing. And to be brutally honest, this thing rides like a Cadillac. On the road, it's great. As you can see, I did remove the sway bar, and I'm running the Carli torsion bar setup. You do notice a bit of sway on road driving that you didn't have before. I guess it's to be expected when you're basically loosening up the sway up front. You're gonna get a little bit of body roll. But you know, if you're not driving it like a race car, oh man, it's fine. And the off-road, gravel, dirt roads, washboard roads, Jeep roads, it actually rides amazing, and the comfortability is even more when you air down just a little bit. All my shocks currently are Bilstein 5100s. I do plan on changing the Bilsteins out. Kings are on my list, but at the moment, $1,000 a corner. I got other things I need to do first. Up front, I am running a dual stabilizer setup. I don't know if it's going to stay. I am not a fan of rough country lifts, and I apologize to anybody running one, but all rough country builds is a lift for your street truck. It's not designed for the off-road. The actual dual setup I have down here is a rough country setup. Obviously, I tossed the rough country shocks, and I'm running the Bilstein. I did that. I did experience death wobble one time, but now that I have gotten my geometry right on the front axle, I have the Carli, I guess, well overbuilt traction bar. and everything else, the dual shocks up front on the stabilizer, I've never experienced it again. I'm also running a steering box stabilizer. Off the top of my head, I don't remember what brand it was. For any of you guys that were looking at the Carli torsion bar setup, it does not work with steering box stabilizers, although I found one with slight modification. It can work, and they can work together. You know, if that's something you want to see more of, or how I did it, please subscribe, drop a comment below, and maybe I can do a full in-depth review of that. On the rear, the 2013s, if many of you don't know, were a leaf spring rear on the 2500s. I want to say in 14 they went to the control radius arm setup, which I understand is a much quality ride. I guess for pulling and towing, leaf springs more ideal. I don't do either. I'm not going to convert my rear end over to a 4-link or radius or anything like that. So what I did is I got with Carli, and Carli works in conjunction with Denver springs. I don't know if you can see that. And I exchanged the very, very stiff 4-pack factory leaf spring out for the Carli 10-pack, much softer leaf spring. You do lose anywhere from 20-25% payload capacity, but again, I'm really not towing anything with the truck, so none of that mattered to me. And the ride quality you get from it, again, just like the front, it's like a Cadillac. It is amazing. When you step back and actually look at the truck, it doesn't look like it's all that lifted. But again, if I got any higher, I'm just making issues for clearance when on the trail. And to be honest, it's not really about how big the truck looks in the air. It's really my ground clearance. And thus far, yes, I've banged the bottom a couple times, but this has treated me right. And when it came time for a back bumper, it was a little bit more of a struggle than the front. There is a vast number of rear bumpers for the Ram. Again, they're aesthetically built. I see it all the time. I guess you call it broing it out. These guys get these big trucks and they put these big hay bale pushing bumpers on the front and rear, some of which are made out of very thin diamond plate. Again, I'm not an aesthetic guy. I do like modifying my vehicles and I do like them looking good, but I want my modifications to serve purpose. So when it did come time for the rear bumper, I knew I wanted to carry a full-size spare, and I did not want to compromise bed space in the bed of my truck by putting the spare in there. Obviously, even if it did fit up under the truck, I didn't want to lose that ground clearance in the rear. I also knew I wanted to carry additional fuel. What's attached right now, you can see the roto packs over there. I have 2 gallons. They're 2-gallon water roto packs. They're on loan to me by a buddy of mine. I just put them on so I knew where I could kind of mount the roto pack lock. I do apologize. I think that was one of those broed out trucks we just discussed going by. Anyhow, those will be replaced with the yellow fuel roto packs. But again, I knew I wanted to carry fuel packs. I knew I wanted to carry a full-size tire. I wanted a bumper that was going to take a hit. I also wanted a bumper that I would retain my factory tow plug. Again, not that I'm towing, but it's there. I want it there. I also wanted to retain my reverse sensors. On the trail, it's a bit of a nightmare having them on. They're constantly chiming when you're in reverse, so I turn them off. But I did want to keep them there for, I guess, urban driving, so I'm not backing into trees, cars, everything else. Because after mounting that spare tire, I covered my camera. I do have a few other options that I'm going to do. I do like a reverse camera. At first, it didn't bother me that much, but after having it for so long, you somewhat come dependent of it. And that's a damn shame, because you should really use your mirrors. But anyhow, when it did come to the back bumper, there was only one company, Expedition 1. They fit the build, everything I needed. Now, don't get me wrong, I could have remained with a factory bumper, or I could have went with a steel bumper that would have been a little bit more cost effective and maybe ran the Wilco off-road swing gate. And I looked at those, and although they offer this patent design wedge system that goes in your receiver, they guarantee it not to rock or squeak. It wasn't for me. I do like modular setups so I can remove stuff, but no. After I bought a budget-friendly steel bumper in the Wilco off-road swing gate, I might as well have bought a bumper that did all in one. Again, Expedition 1 fit all my needs. These bumpers are made to order, so if you're interested in a bumper like this and you got to have it right away, this is not the bumper for you. This was a 16-week build, and when you spend $2,600 on a rear bumper, you want it pretty quick. So the months waiting were brutal. Again, coming from a car guy, all I want to do is modify and improve, and I can't wait to put it on. It's like Christmas when the Saya truck shows up with no liftgate, and then you got to get a 345-pound bumper off of that. As far as the swings work, I had a guy comment on Instagram that I guess could not understand how the latching system worked and thought that it's a compromise to have a tire carrier and fuel packs or carrying solution, but you lose the access to your tailgate. That's not true. Expedition 1 engineers their own latching system, which is very, very solid lockup. It is not coming loose. And the cool part about it is, in the event it did get loose, they are serviceable. So I'll open those right now. So as you can see, you can access the entire tailgate on your truck if with the gates fully open. I would never compromise the use of my bed for a bumper, ever. I don't care if it was to carry a tire. Again, the truck needs to have purpose. You don't want to make it to the point that it's impractical. When it becomes impractical, what do you do with it? You know. Again, bed opens all the way. I do run a bed cover. That is I believe it's called a G2 backflip. Let me go ahead and shut this up. These do latch. They have a latch point, so it will not swing out and hit the side of your truck if you're not level or on a hill or something, so you don't have to worry about damage to the side of your tail lights or the side of your truck. A spare tire makes an old man like me have to squat down a little bit. Also on the rear, as you can see, for rear lighting, I'm running another set of rigid dualies. These are floods again. I've not seen any yellowing from these things. The lenses aren't fogging up. They don't get moisture in them. The lights are bright. I don't recall the lumen right offhand, but again, the lights I'm running are more than enough for what I have done. I'm not opposed in the future to change my mind, but the current setup, this is stuff I wrote out. I wrote this build down on a sheet of paper to a T, exactly what I wanted before I started building. I am running a Tepui rooftop tent. This is the Kukumin 3 model. I believe they advertise it as a 4-season tent. It's not the most ruggedized model. The ruggedized model is actually damn near 100 pounds more than this one. This one's manageable. I can get it on and off by myself without hitting the truck. I do think at some point in time I am going to go to a larger rooftop tent. I am a backer for Tepui. I don't know if it will be a Tepui or not, but I want a hard shell, and I don't mind if that hard shell actually covers the entire part of the bed. I take my girls with me a lot, and even in this 3+ person tent, it gets cramped because my 8-year-old, she can't lay one direction and she rolls all night. So anytime I've had all the girls with me, I'll be honest with telling you, I have not had one good night's rest in this. I think I'm going to have to get some sort of sleeping medication if I continue to take them and sleep in this tent. I did add a ARB awning, and I'll get around to that in a minute, to the other side. And I do have the ARB awning room, which does allow for a 8 by 6.5 foot footprint, so I can blow up 2 twin-size double air mattresses, and the girls sleep good in there, other than the fact that they're scared of sleeping on the ground. Anyhow, I looked at rack systems for the bed of the truck. As I told you, I did want to keep my bed cover. There's multiple reasons for that. I do take this truck when we go on vacation, and I wanted something modular that would allow me to attach the rooftop tent, yet deattach and access my whole bed cover. And although there are, I think, Nut House Industries, and I want to say there's another brand out there, offer some custom builds to where you can get a bed rack system and one of their maybe aluminum bed cover slides and stuff. You know, and that might be something later on down the line, but for now, this actually works purposely. What I did is I purchased a set of heavy-duty roof tracks from Rhino Rack. I believe they're 55 inches, and mounted them to the sides of the bed. Again, excuse me. And I did the heavy-duty Rhino Rack legs and heavy-duty Rhino Rack bars. I want to say those bars are 71 inches, 76 inches. I can get all that information if you really want to know. Again, comment. I'll tell you exactly what they are. And it works just fine. I've had myself, the wife, both my girls, and a niece up there. Oh, it was a terrible night. Luckily, with all those people in there, we kept pretty warm because it was really, really cold. But again, didn't get no sleep. Up top, I am also running also by Rhino Rack, is their Rhino Rack Pioneer platform. It is mounted with the Rhino Rack backbone system. Now, this setup is a permanent mount. It mounts to the roof of your vehicle. Although, where the mounting points are, they are mounted in with riv nuts. So you can unbolt it and actually pull the whole roof rack off, and I guess if you wanted to, put a bolt back in there so you don't get no water. I have no intention on taking this off. I made sure all my clearances for most parking garages and everything else when on vacation, I can get in. Obviously I can't do it with the front runner boxes, but when we went to Daytona, I parked in the parking garage every night. It was a tight fit, but you know what, it makes it. So I don't have any intention of pulling mine off. I do recommend take your time if this is a rack you're interested in, because again, you are drilling into your roof. And although it comes with these weather patches to put down over your bolts, I recommend sealant. This is too much money in a truck to have a leak, too many electronics in this truck to get wet. So I vowed on the overcautious side and sealed it all up. This antenna you see, this is a cellular data antenna. The design for it is to boost cellular signal. I believe it's up to like 30%, 32%, the normal boost rate that you would receive on your phone. The way it operates is it can pick up cellular in areas that the antenna in your phone cannot get. It goes in from the antenna on the outside into a booster that's mounted underneath my console and boosts that signal through an internal antenna that's mounted on my dash. Now, the only pitfall to this is I have not had any success with data transfer. So the data part, yeah, I can't say that works as advertised. But cellular, I have got cellular when I had no bars. Now this system works better with different cellular providers. Sprint. I've been with Sprint for a long time, and God knows I should change. But I got a rate that it's an old rate that's been grandfathered in, and can't nobody beat it. And if you knew how many devices and phones were on my account, you'd probably understand why. But this antenna is mounted on a Rhino Rack aerial bracket. This is for clearance purposes. I have it laid forward in this position, obviously for clearance, but you can actually pull. You pull the T-handle, and you can stand this thing straight up. It locks into place. And obviously you want it at your highest point when you're trying to receive signal. Oh, I'm losing this over with that. There you go. Back to the roof rack here. Again, it's a Rhino Rack Pioneer platform, Rhino Rack backbone mounting system. I just showed you the WeBoost. This is actually the WeBoost OTR 4G. I know a lot of phones are getting away from 4G, or I don't even know what the G is anymore. But at the end of the day, they all run on all the Gs or cellular connections. So this should work for any phone. Again, depending on your service, it may work better than others. Up top, I am running four. Well, I have up there 4 Front Runner. I think they're called the Wolfpack boxes. They're just up there for aesthetic purposes right now to kind of show you. Normally I have them strapped down with Front Runners, what they call stratchets. They're kind of it's not a ratchet, it's more of a, it's got 2 D-rings, one on each side, with some elastic, so you can kind of stretch it across and hook. I'm also running the Front Runner box chunks. I don't know if you can see that, I'm trying to hold the camera up. Obviously, Front Runner stuff and Rhino Rack stuff are not meant to work with one another. I mean, so you stick with a brand. Front Runner doesn't make a lot of options for the Ram, unfortunately, in the form of roof racks, but I did like their boxes. I can contest that they don't leak. They're not advertised as waterproof because they're not sealed, but the kind of groove design they have on them, I've been in some heavy rain, no water on my stuff, and most of the stuff that's up there is disposable anyway, or stuff that doesn't matter if it gets wet. Sometimes I pack the girls' clothes in there, but again, it's not leaking. As far as the chalks go, I was just lucky with my measurements that they did line up to 2 slides of the Rhino Rack, but the mounting hardware that come with the Front Runner box chalks obviously was not going to work with the Rhino Rack, I guess, slide system. So there was some modification done to the mounting for those chalks. And again, if this is something you're interested in, maybe you're going to do a similar rack on your Ram, or maybe you're just going to run a Rhino Rack on your off-road vehicle, adventure rig, or overland truck, and you do want to run Front Runner boxes and run those chalks to keep them in place, you know, again, subscribe, drop me a comment, and maybe I can walk through a video on how to actually modify those to mount, or I can go in more depth with mine, taking them off and showing you exactly what I did to make that work. Moving around, I did mention that I had an ARB awning. This is, I believe, I don't think it's the 2500 by 2500. I think it's the 2000 by 2000, and I'm pretty positive 2000 by 2000. Anyway, it is a 6.5 foot long awning. As you can see, it does overhang the truck, but luckily the way my modular system works on the back with my rooftop tent, I can adjust all of it so it all clears. The truck is deleted. I'm not going to get too much into the delete unless somebody really wants to know. I didn't delete it for power, performance, or any of that. I actually deleted it because my warranty ran out, and I knew the next time that DPF system got clogged, it was going to cost me more to get that repaired than it would just to be delete the truck and worry about it. But the purpose of the delete was, again, it was to eliminate that limp mode that these trucks go into when the DPF system fails. There is no fix for the limp mode. When it goes into limp mode, you get 5 miles an hour. That is it. Basically, it's designed to get you off the road and get a flatbed out there. Again, if somebody really wants to get into the program that's being ran on it and everything, feel free to drop a comment and just tell me you want that review, or you'd like to know more about it. You can also find me on Instagram, Southbound Expeditions. Drop me a DM, and I can, if you really want to know, I can fill you in on that. All right, gentlemen, that's what I got. That is my 2013 Ram 2500 overland vehicle, adventure vehicle, expedition vehicle, weekender, rig, whatever you want to call it. This is my build and how I see an overland truck. So, you know, if you like, please subscribe. And again, anything you saw on this truck you want to see more in depth on, as the suspension, maybe tires, how I did some wiring, the roof rack, please subscribe and drop me a comment, and I'll be glad to do a review video in depth on anything you want to see. Again, thanks for watching.